Good day, everybody. Well, I'd like to read you a little bit from this book. I picked this book up back when it came out. I guess it was, well, no, I picked it up a little later than that. In the late 90s I got it. 12, 15 years ago, I guess. But, God, has it been that long? It's called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. And I haven't read it in about 10 years. But like most books, I like to flip through it once in a while and look at random pages and just kind of reassess what I've learned in the past. Reading a book has a completely new meaning every time you read it, but this book is basically my first step into trying to understand the world as a hologram. And I hear little people talk about that today, as if that everything's an illusion. And I kind of scoff at it and laugh it off, because I feel like many people who talk about that don't really grasp what they mean by illusion or by hologram. It's a much more complicated thing than just saying everything's projected, like that everything's fake or an illusion. They're real, but they're not real. So I'm just going to read this page because there's a couple of interesting things. If I can find the right one, there's they were talking about. It says, holography also explained how our brains can store so many memories in so little space. The brilliant Hungarian-born physicist and mathematician John von Neumann once calculated that over the course of the average human lifetime, the brain stores something on the order of 2.8 times 10 to the 20 bits of information. That's 280 with 18 zeros after it. It's a lot. This is a staggering amount of information, and brain researchers have long struggled to come up with a mechanism that explains such a vast capability. Interestingly, holograms also possess a fantastic capacity for information storage. By changing the angle at which the two lasers strike a piece of photographic film, it is possible to record many different images on the same surface. Any image thus recorded can be retrieved simply by illuminating the film with a laser beam possessing the same angle as the original two beams. By employing this method, researchers have calculated that a 1-inch square film can store the same information contained in 50 Bibles. And this one line right here, the transference of learned skills. Prebram also believes that the holographic model sheds light on our ability to transfer learned skills from one part of our body to another. As you sit reading this book, take a moment to trace your first name in the air with your left elbow. You will probably discover that this is a relatively easy thing to do, and yet in all likelihood, it is something you have never done before. It may not seem a surprising ability to you, but in the classic view, the various areas of the brain, such as the area controlling movements of the elbow, are hardwired or able to perform tasks only after repetitive learning has caused this proper neural connection to become established between brain cells. This is something of a puzzle. Prebram points out that the problem becomes much more tractable if the brain were to convert all of its memories, including memories of learned abilities, such as writing, into a language of interfering waveforms. Such a brain would be much more flexible and could shift its stored information around with the same ease that a skilled pianist transposes a song from one musical key to another. This same flexibility may explain how we are able to recognize a familiar face, regardless of the angle from which we're viewing it. Again, once the brain has memorized the face, or any other object or scene, and converted it into a language of waveforms, it can, in a sense, tumble this internal hologram around and examine it from any perspective it wants. A lot of that probably just sounds like, trying to grasp that while I'm reading it, I know it's tough. It's even like I have to reread things a lot to really get it. And I still am trying to, it's difficult to word these things, but what they're basically saying is that the learned behaviors, concepts, ideas, stories, languages, everything that we have, we don't store them as we learn them as a language. We store them as a waveform, which can be called upon by many different angles, such as when you meet a person, you look at them in the eyes, then you see them walking down the street from the side. You've never seen them from the side, but you recognize their face, because your brain has mapped out that from all these different directions. It's difficult for me to express where I'm going with this, because I can't really put it into words very easily. But these waveforms that we create, these ideas, how we kind of illuminate these ideas, like tracing your elbow, tracing your name with your elbow, it's something we've learned how to do, not because we've ever done it, but because our brain is able to, or our awareness is able to combine the ideas that we do know. I know how to move my arm, and I also know how to write my name, to create a completely new pattern of movement that was never learned, that was never taught to your body. In a way, this can relate to some of the behaviors that we have, some of the things, the ways that we act out, some of the things that, the opinions that we hold, that are based on these waveform patterns that are created by other things we've learned in our lives, if that makes sense. So, for example, if we've learned our whole life that this particular God is what we should worship or whatnot, then when we have a view from the outside, it's going to appear not as what it is, but as a waveform to incorporate it within what we already believe. I guess I'm trying to say that the human mind is weak yet strong at the same time. That if we understand what our brains are doing with our thoughts, then we can call upon them in times when we really need to learn something. We can set aside our prejudice and our illusions and the way that we think things are. It's very difficult to do, and even I've been practicing it for years, and it's still one of the most difficult things I can do, is look at each situation with a newfound respect, not based on anything that I've had a preconceived notion about, but these waveforms keep coming up. It's kind of like reactions, like, you know, for example, if somebody's moving towards somebody, one guy might back away, another guy might punch them, depending on the experiences that you've had, how you react to situations. But we're not able to take each situation as it is. Like if you've been attacked all your life and you see somebody coming at you, you might reach out and punch them. If everybody's always been nice to you and you've never had any problems, then a whole group may be coming to mob you and you welcome with open arms. I know that may not be the best metaphor, but it's really all perception. Not just the illusion or the hologram of how we perceive things, but the illusion of whether those things are real, how we incorporate them into our lives. And I don't know. That's about as much as I can say about it, because the stuff is too deep, and I can't really express these things. These are the Zen things, or what they call, I guess it would be Zen, the unspeakable, you know. And I would recommend this book to anybody who's curious. It's pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, I'm going to wander off into my illusion now.